Welcome back to Selena's Table and our little Aussie Homestead. I'm Selena and today I am going to show you how to make your own homemade version of the chocolate ripple cookie or biscuit as we call them here in Australia. This is chocolate ripple cookies are a chocolate biscuit, a plain one that is very popular around Christmas time for making other things with, like cheesecake bases, balls and things that we're going to enjoy for Christmas, as well as slices and things like that. So last year I was so unimpressed with the price of the chocolate ripple biscuit that I decided I'm going to make these myself. Now, there's one thing, if you want these to turn out cheaper than the chocolate ripple cookies you buy at the supermarket when they are on sale, you will want to make these with margarine. If you would like to make these with butter, which I'm going to do today, they won't end up being more economical. However, they'll have butter in them. You'll know what all the ingredients are. So I was so unimpressed with the price of chocolate ripple cookies, I made them myself. They turned out perfect. They're exactly the same, especially if you do use the margarine. Today I'm going to be using some butter because that's what we're preferring to use and it's what we've got. For me to make these with margarine, I would have had to specifically buy margarine, and I just haven't done that this week when I did my groceries. So they are a super simple biscuit to make. You can make them in a Thermomix if you have one. I'll be using just my KitchenAid mixer today, and I'm going to also show you probably everybody's favorite way of using these biscuits that I've seen online is to make the chocolate ripple wreath. Now, you can use these biscuits that we make today for that, or you can just use the bought ones, so it will work for both. I'm going to jazz up my wreath a little though, so stay with me till the end where you see what I do with my chocolate ripple wreath. Perfect for Christmas. We can freeze it too if we want to. So for this recipe, I've set my oven to 160 degrees Celsius or 320 Fahrenheit, and that's just preheating now. This recipe will get me anywhere from, well, it depends on the size that you make your biscuit or cookie, but I usually get about 50 per batch. So each batch makes around 50 of the teaspoon-sized cookies, and if you want to use a cookie scoop, you'll get closer to 25, just as a guide. I'm not going to make them too small today because I am making the chocolate wreath with them. I'd like that to be a little bit more impressive. The other advantage to making these yourself is you can make them the size you need them to be. When you buy them in the packet, they are what they are. When you make them yourself, you can have little petite ones, you can have bigger ones, or you can have that size that you are used to buying. I have a few recipes coming up in videos to come where I'm going to be using this particular cookie or biscuit. So feel free to make these, pop them in your freezer or in your fridge until you're ready to watch those videos when they're released. They're not out yet, but when they are out, this is the biscuit recipe you're going to want to use to make those if you're not purchasing your cookies. So I have lined 2 trays with baking paper. My oven is on and my stand mixer is here ready to go. This particular biscuit or cookie recipe is different to the one that I make, the one that I released recently with the chocolate chip cookies. This is a different recipe. This is not my world famous cookie recipe. This one is specifically to taste like those chocolate ripple cookies. And I will make sure also in the description box below I have a converter link for you for anyone who needs to convert my gram measurements into cup measurements. That is there for you. I will also have the recipe down below for you. So you may want to do 3 or 4 even batches of these biscuits or cookies. Keep them in the freezer ready for when you want to make these further things that we're going to be making. So today I am going to be measuring all of my ingredients using my digital scales, and so it may look like I'm adding more or less than a cup or whatever it is. Just keep in mind I am weighing my ingredients for this recipe, and as I said, there'll be a converter for those of you who need to use sort of a standard cup. So I've got my digital scales here. I'm going to turn those on with my bowl on top so that it reads 0, and my light is going out in these, so you won't actually be able to see it today. So into your bowl we want 330 grams of sugar. Yes, these are heavy on sugar. This is certainly not something you want to be eating if you are trying to avoid sugar. But it is for Christmas, it's a special treat. $330 grams of just plain white sugar. To that we want to add 200 grams of plain flour, and I'm hitting the tare button between each of these measurements, so my scales are continuing to read 0 once they have the ingredients in there. So now that I've weighed out my flour and my sugar, I've hit tare again and my digital scales do read 0. To this we are adding 50 grams now of cocoa powder. We want 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, bicarb soda. So bicarbonate soda, 1 teaspoon. And 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. That is it for our dry ingredients. We are going to put this onto the mixer and just mix them together. Using the paddle attachment on the mixer. And we just want this on low. We're just trying to mix the ingredients together. While that's mixing, we're going to measure out our butter. And we need 150 grams of butter or margarine, depending on what you're using today. Our dry ingredients are well incorporated, so now we are just going to add our butter. And I don't suggest you add your butter in the way that I just did. Turn your mixer off, add your butter, turn it back on, otherwise you're going to spill it out. So I've just cleaned that up and popped it back in. So when your mixture starts to look like this, where the butter has incorporated well into the dry ingredients, that's when we're ready to add our vanilla and our egg. So I always crack my egg into a separate container. I never crack straight into the bowl in case there's anything wrong with this egg. And I am having a day today. I have spilt my egg. I've thrown the flour out of my mixer, but you know what? We can keep going. This will turn out. Don't you worry. I've got the egg in a different container, one that's big enough for it. We're ready to add that with 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So egg straight in. And 1 teaspoon of, or capful in this case, of vanilla. And that is our batch done. We just want that to be well combined. And that is exactly what you want your batter to look like. So this dough doesn't require chilling or anything like that. It is ready to go, ready to be rolled out into balls. I've got my trays, I've got my dough. Let's scoop it out into some balls, pop it in the oven so that it's ready to then work with. And today I am just going to use a cookie scoop sized amount. I like to round them up a bit and then just flatten them slightly, because if you know what chocolate ripple cookies are, you'll know they're not a domed cookie by any means. They are quite flat, quite thin, and that is what we are going for, an equivalent to that. So I have just pressed them slightly, and I'm going to get about 9 on one of these trays that fits into your standard 600 oven. Just like that. Now this tray is ready for the oven. I won't put it in until my second tray is done. I will just say though, when you're cooking a chocolate cookie or biscuit, you need to keep a much closer eye on it than you would a golden cookie, a white one, because you won't notice the browning before it's burning in most cases. You just need to keep a good eye on it. It is going to be oven dependent on how long you want to cook these for. These biscuits are traditionally quite a crunchy cookie, so we're not going for soft here. We're not going for underdone, unless of course you're wanting to make these to just eat them as they are and enjoy a softer chocolate cookie. Because I need these to be a replica of the original, I want these to be nice and crispy. And while my first batch is cooking in the oven, I am going to pre-roll out the rest of my cookie dough so that they are ready to just be put straight on the tray once this batch is done. So these are going in the oven now, and I'm aiming for 8 minutes at 160 or 320 Fahrenheit, but definitely keep an eye on them. Once they burn, they kind of can't be resurrected. So in they go. And I forgot to put my second rack up. All right, our timer has gone off, and our cookies, biscuits are definitely looking good. This is what you want them to look like. They are perfect. Time to pull them out and let them rest on the tray for 5 minutes. And I will add, I did rotate my trays at about the 4-minute mark so that they were cooked evenly. And a little trick to get them a little more even, like this tray here, a little more circular, is to get a round cookie cutter, bigger than the biscuits you've made. While they are warm on the tray, you're just shaking them around in that circle, and you'll find they are a lot more circular, a lot less irregular. And because we're making a wreath, I'm just going to make these a little bit more circular. You need to do this while they are warm. They're not perfectly round, but they are better than they were. And before I remove those from the tray and start the next, or whatever I've got left here to be baked, we really need to let them set there for 5 minutes. By leaving it on the tray before we move it to a cooling rack, we're going to ensure we get a much crispier base. We do want these cookies to be nice and crunchy. They're not intended to be soft, so I'm going to let them cool down for at least 5 minutes before I move them onto my cooling rack. It's been a good 5 minutes that they have rested and they have firmed up nicely. You can see they're not wobbly. They're still warm, so they are still slightly soft in the center, but otherwise they are going to crisp up lovely. And as you can see, they are so similar in look to the chocolate ripple cookie that you're used to. These ones are a bit thicker. They are definitely bigger than the ones we purchase in the packet, and that's just because I used the cookie scoop. I'm going to pop these on the cooling rack to cool right down, because they need to be cold before we can actually make our Christmas chocolate ripple wreath. Okay, while the camera was off and the cookies were baking, I did go ahead and make a second batch exactly the same way, because I'm going to need a double batch for this recipe. And the reason I needed a double batch for this recipe is because of the size I made the biscuits. All right, so if you're wanting to make them slightly smaller, you won't need to double your recipe. And I mean, these are cool enough for me to just pick up and handle now. And you know, as you can see, the base is lovely. It's not burnt in any way. So they ended up being in the oven for 9 minutes. I did have to leave them in there for an extra minute. That is entirely dependent on your oven. So that 9 minutes for me might be 7 for you, might be 12 for you. You need to be able to monitor your own oven temperature. And I'm just going to get the next batch in the oven with rolling them the size that I did today, with that tablespoon, I'm thinking, amount of a scoop. I have gotten 25 biscuits or cookies. So batch 2 in the oven. Our cookies are beautifully baked, no burnt bottoms, and we are nice and cool, so we're ready to move on to the next part. In order to make our Christmas chocolate ripple wreath, we can make a log shape. You can do whatever you like with this. So for those of you who wanted to just make yourself some chocolate ripple cookies, there you go. That is 2 batches there, because I did make them the larger size. You would have gotten about double this amount if you made them just a bit smaller, about a teaspoon. So what we need now is to whip ourselves some cream. Now, traditionally, this chocolate ripple wreath or log would have just the biscuits and some sweet vanilla cream. Today, I thought I want to make this a little bit more special because it's for Christmas. So I'm going to incorporate some cherry flavor. And this will be more like a Black Forest Christmas log or a Black Forest Christmas wreath, depending on the shape we make. And so yeah, I'm going to incorporate some cherry into my dessert. So all I need to do to make, I just need to whip some cream, okay? So I've cleaned out my bowl. I've got my whisk attachment here on the KitchenAid, and I'm just going to whip some cream. Now you need at least 600 mils for this of cream, which is one of these containers. I'm going to add a capful of vanilla to my cream. And I'm going to add some icing sugar or powdered sugar, and I've got 1/4 cup here. that I'm going to add to my 600 mils. And in order to keep my cream nice and stable during the process of it sitting in the fridge, because what you want is for these biscuits, these cookies, to soften with the cream, okay? And it becomes more like a cake-like product than a biscuit. But I don't want my cream to break down too much. So I am going to add some powdered milk. Now this is just a little tip if you're wanting to stabilize your whipped cream, because it's got to sit in the fridge for a while, especially good if you need to pipe your cream. So I'm just going to add about a dessert spoonful of powdered milk to my cream. And we're going to whip this up till we get some nice firm peaks. We don't want to over whip it. We're not making butter today. We are just whipping our cream, so don't walk away. The gas gun cream that I've used in other recipes, like my cream puffs that I made with all of those eggs that time, that sort of cream is not going to be suitable for this recipe. So the canned cream that you buy and you squeeze it out, that's going to break down and end up just being a sloppy mess. Okay, so that's more of a cream that you can serve right before using. Because we need this cream to sit, this is going to be living in the fridge for at least a couple of hours. Overnight would be perfect. We are going to need to whip that ourselves. You can use handheld beaters as well. Okay, so just whip your cream. So that's perfect. Our cream is lovely and whipped. As you can see, it's sitting nicely on there, and you can see that it cuts through the cream with that. What I mean by that is when you have something in there and it moves, it's going to cut it and leave it there. It doesn't fall back on itself. So that is a nice stiff peak right there. Now, depending on how big you make this, you may need more than one bottle of cream as well. So be prepared. I always would have an extra whole 600 mils ready to go as well. And I do have an extra 600 mils in the fridge if I need it. The other thing that I'm going to do is going to grate some chocolate for the top. So I've just got some dark chocolate here, and I'm going to just use my peeler. You'll also need, if you want to make this the Black Forest or the cherry chocolate version, I've got a jar of Morello cherries, okay? And I've also got some Fruits of the Forest jam, which we made. Actually, I made without you. This has in it cranberries, raspberries, strawberries, and cherry. So this one will be really nice as well. So those are sort of optional ingredients. If you don't want to make the Black Forest variety, just the cream and your biscuits and you're ready to go. But I'm going to grate my chocolate so that my dessert is ready, all decorated and beautiful. So this is just some dark chocolate, and I'm just peeling, shaving off. If you want to make chocolate curls, the long curled chocolate, you can do that as well, and they would be beautiful. But if you're wanting it to be really simple, a peeler, a vegetable peeler on a block of chocolate, dark chocolate works really nicely. Just like that. Try to avoid touching it because it will melt. I'm going to pop that in the fridge just so it stays nice and cold, and I'll put the cream in the fridge. If it's cool where you are, you don't need to put your cream back in the fridge. It's only that it's quite hot here today, so I'm just letting it chill again before I go and make my cherry layer. I've got some things to decorate my finished product with. I've got some strawberries, raspberries, some mint out of the garden, and some rosemary. So if you are short on things that you need to use to decorate this sort of dessert, don't forget about your herbs, because herbs can be a great little substitute for the green, you know, when you're going for that Christmas look, okay? Now, we make this directly on the plate we are serving it on, and that is this cake stand for me today. To make it a log, you're just going to make it in one long shape. To make it a wreath, we're going to need a center sort of stabilizer so that it doesn't just collapse on itself. So I've just got a cup here, and in my plate I'm looking for roughly the center so that I can then start working. So what I'm going to do for my cherry component is I'm going to actually use the liquid that's in my cherries. So I've just got a bowl and a strainer here, and I'm just going to strain off some of those cherries, not too many. So that we've got some of that cherry juice, okay? Now, what you can also do is optionally, you can flavor some of your cream, and that's what I'm going to do as well today. So in another bowl, this one, I'm just going to put some of the cherries without the juice, because we don't want to add liquid so much to the cream. And then I'm just going to put them in a bowl with some of our jam. And because jam has lots of sugar in it, we don't want to use too much, because our sweetened cream is already sweet, all right? Give that a mix. Crush up your cherries a little. If you wanted this to be really smooth, you could use a stick mixer or a stick blender or a chopper, but I'm wanting the chunky bits of cherry. To that, we're going to add some cream. All right, gently mix this together. Now we are ready to assemble. The most important thing to remember before you assemble your chocolate ripple log or wreath is to make sure your biscuits are cold. They cannot be warm at all. They will melt the cream if they are. So now all I'm doing is I'm going to grab a fork to help me out. We're going to dip our biscuit just quickly into our cherry mixture, and then put a little bit of cream on top. Get yourself another one. Okay, dip it into the cherry mixture and sandwich those two together. All right, and place them where we are building this. Okay, so this is our serving tray, and then the next one. Now we're only dipping them in the liquid very quickly, and we're putting just a little bit of cream, and then we will sandwich that one. And you just work your way around, in this case, the cup mold, squeezing as you go. And we're just going to work our way all the way around until our mold is full. So there, I'll show you this side. And this is what we want it to look like. It's okay that it's falling over a little. As we add more biscuits and more cream, it'll start holding itself up, but you can see why we needed something in the center to sort of direct how far this thing can move. And you can squeeze as you need to and reshape as you need to. So just keep going until the wreath is complete. There we go, our wreath is complete all the way around. Now you can remove your cup gently and pop this in the freezer. Pop this in the freezer until it's nice and set, because then we're going to ice or frost the whole outside with more of our cream. Okay, but if we try and do that now, our biscuits are quite soft from putting them in that cherry juice, so they will probably break down a bit. So we want to get this in the freezer, get it nice and frozen before we move on to the next step. Okay, into the freezer we go. All right, if you want to use a piping bag to put the cream on, you can. However, today I'm not going to. I want to show you how to do this without one, because not everyone has piping bag skills, and that is okay. So all we want to do is cover the top quite generously with our cream. Now you can decorate this however you think is best. I did go ahead and whip another bottle of cream. The reason I'm piling it on the top is because without dragging any cookie down, we are going to gently just press the cream and it will naturally fall down, okay, around the sides, and then we can add more where we need to. And we just do this ever so gently because we don't want to drag any cookie crumbs through the finished product. Okay, and on the inside, and if you need to add more, just add it to the top side like that and push it down. If you try and drop the cream into the middle, you're probably going to make it land on the base of the plate. And if you don't have a little spatula like this, you can use a knife, okay? You don't have to have all the tools. The great thing about this dessert is that it's super beginner friendly, but it tastes delicious. Now that we are covered in cream, if you want to add a textured look, just do little swirls and grab more cream as you need to. Textured swirls will hide a multitude of mistakes, okay? Now, there's no chance at all that this is going to last till Christmas in my house. My family's home today. They know I'm in here making this. It's gone. Okay, it's already gone. But if you were wanting to make this for Christmas, you could assemble it on a piece of baking paper, on your plate like I did, and once it's completely frozen, you can just wrap it really well in plastic, okay? So you could get it to this stage we're at now, where the cream is on but not the decorations, and then refreeze and wrap it up tightly, and it will be perfect to defrost the day before Christmas or the day before you need to use it, and then you will have a finished product. Because this one is already gone, I'll be decorating it right now. And obviously decorating is entirely up to you. I'm filling my center. I am going to just place some berries around just like this. We will throw some mint in there. Do not need to be a professional cake decorator in order to make this look good. This looks good regardless of who's made it, and it's super simple. As you saw, like, I don't think it could get simpler. For a dessert that looks impressive, tastes incredible, and I'm just putting some rosemary around my base. Just fill the gaps with mint. Couple more berries. There you go. Could not be simpler. So there you go, a beautiful Merry Christmas chocolate ripple wreath, ready to serve, ready to be enjoyed. If that doesn't say Christmas, come and get me, I don't know what does. Nothing could be simpler. Super cheap to make when it comes to making your own chocolate ripple cookies as well, but so convenient if you need to bring something to a Christmas event this year. Think about bringing this. That's going to be the most incredible dessert. People are going to love it. And if you've never had it before, definitely try it. If you have had it before, let me know if it is also one of your favorite Christmas desserts. It's definitely one of mine. So thanks for spending time with me today. I hope you have a fantastic week. I will catch you next time. See you later.